Liam adjusted the straps of his backpack as he stepped out of the small shuttle onto the gray, dusty surface of the alien moon. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long, jagged shadows across the terrain. He had been assigned to this remote outpost for maintenance work, routine inspections of the satellite relay towers that crisscrossed the barren landscape. He had expected a quiet month, filled with nothing more exciting than recalibrating sensors and cleaning dust from panels. Instead, as he moved toward the forested area near the eastern ridge, he heard something that made his stomach tighten, a faint, uneven rustling like footsteps in the underbrush. At first, he thought it was an animal, a predator perhaps adapted to this harsh environment. He slowed his pace, scanning the line of twisted alien trees, their leaves glinting faintly in the pale sunlight. The rustling grew louder, closer, and then with a sudden burst of movement, a figure came running toward him. It was a woman, and she was clearly not of any species he had seen before. She was tall, with pale, shimmering skin that reflected the sunlight like silver. Her limbs were long and graceful, and her eyes, large and violet, were wide with terror. She stumbled as she ran, her breathing ragged, and then, almost before Liam could react, she threw herself into his arms, clinging to him desperately. Liam froze, unsure what to do. She trembled violently, her small hands gripping his shoulders so tightly that he feared she might hurt herself or him. She sobbed, and the sound cut through the still air like glass. What's wrong?" Liam asked carefully, holding her at arm's length. His voice was gentle but firm, trying to give her a sense of safety. She shook her head, pressing herself closer to him. No, go back," she whispered. Her voice broken and strange, translated imperfectly through the small device she wore on her chest. "They'd find me." Hurt. The words made Liam's stomach tighten. Who would be chasing her? And why was she so terrified? Before he could ask more, a low rumble echoed through the trees, slow and deliberate, not like thunder but like something massive moving in the distance. Liam turned his head, scanning the forest. Shadows shifted unnaturally, and he realized that whatever was coming was not an animal. "Stay behind me," he said instinctively, and the woman nodded, burying her face against his chest. He felt her trembling more strongly now, her body tense with fear. "Who are you running from?" he asked quietly. But she only shook her head again, her hands clinging to him as though letting go would mean certain death. The decision came quickly, without thought. He could report her to command, follow protocol, and have security sweep the area. Or he could protect her. Something in her panic, the sheer terror in her violet eyes, made the choice for him. He led her back to his small shelter, a modular dome with minimal equipment and a single living space. Inside, he moved quickly, locking the door behind them. She sank to the floor, still sobbing, curling up into herself like a child. Liam handed her a blanket, but she hesitated, only wrapping it around herself while keeping her eyes on him. "You're safe. For now," he said, sitting a careful distance away. "No one's going to hurt you here." She shook her head again, a quiet whimper escaping her lips. He watched her, realizing that she was not just afraid, she was traumatized. There was a story here, one that went far beyond a simple encounter on a distant moon. Hours passed as he offered her food and water, which she accepted slowly, glancing around the shelter as if expecting an ambush at every moment. He tried small talk, introducing himself, asking her name and explaining that he was just a maintenance engineer, not a soldier. She listened, eyes wide, still trembling, but she did not speak. Finally, when the immediate panic seemed to ease, she whispered a single word, broken through the translator. "Hunt." Liam blinked. "Hunt? Who is hunting you?" Her hands trembled as she pointed vaguely toward the trees, toward the ridge where they had first met. "Rich, they hunt us, play, sport." It took a moment for the meaning to sink in. Her people were being hunted for entertainment. Wealthy elites, perhaps treating intelligent beings as prey in some sadistic game. Liam felt a chill run down his spine. He had read reports of illegal alien trafficking, of species captured and sold to powerful collectors, but he had never imagined it would come here, to this quiet moon. He wanted to ask more, to find out everything, but before words could form, a shadow passed over the small window, and the rumbling returned. This time closer. The alien woman froze, pressing herself against him again. "They come," she whispered. Liam's heart pounded. He grabbed a toolkit, scanning the shelter for anything that could help. The door was reinforced, but only slightly. Outside he could hear movement, heavy and deliberate, scanning, searching. Whoever or whatever was coming, they were not gentle. He made a quick decision. He would fight with his mind, not with weapons, using traps, barriers, and improvised devices to slow them down. He had spent years engineering things, repairing satellites and systems, but now those skills would become survival tools. The first intruder tried the door. Liam had rigged a small electromagnet to jam the lock temporarily. The door shuddered under pressure, and Alira, the alien woman, let out a small gasp. "Stay behind me," he said. She obeyed, pressing close, her head against his side. For the next tense hour, they reinforced the shelter with every piece of equipment Liam could find. Metal panels, wires, a small generator to power a deterrent field. All the while, Alira assisted him, her hands surprisingly skilled, moving as though she had done this before, though the terror in her eyes never faded. Finally, when the noise outside subsided, they collapsed to the floor together. Alira buried her face in his shoulder, crying softly. But this time the sobs were mixed with relief, not raw panic. Liam gently patted her back, realizing that despite her fear, there was trust forming, a fragile bond in the midst of danger. "Why are you helping me?" she whispered finally, her voice trembling. He looked at her, trying to find words that felt right. "Because no one deserves to be hunted like this, and I won't let it happen to you." She was silent for a long moment, then muttered almost to herself, "Humans. Dangerous. You safe?" "I guess you haven't met all humans," he said softly, trying to lighten the mood. "Some of us try to do the right thing." She let out a small, uncertain laugh, a sound that made Liam realize just how terrified and isolated she must have been. Her name came out slowly in broken words. Alira. She was the last survivor of her family, hunted across the galaxy for the amusement of others. Liam felt a weight settle on his chest. This was no longer just an assignment. This was life and death, and he was the only thing standing between Alira and those who sought her. Night fell on the alien moon, the pale sunlight fading into a soft, eerie glow. Liam kept watch at the small window, his mind racing with plans and contingencies. Alira slept lightly beside him, her hands clutching his arm as though letting go would mean certain death. And deep in the forest, the shadows shifted. The hunters had not left. They were coming closer, methodical and unrelenting. Liam knew that tomorrow would not be quiet, that the skills he had honed for repairing satellites would be tested in a battle for survival. But for now, in the fragile safety of the shelter, a connection formed between human and alien. Trust, fear, hope. And in that moment, Liam understood something profound. Sometimes, being human meant standing up not because you had to, but because someone else could not. And Alira, trembling and weeping, clung to him with a vulnerability that spoke louder than words ever could. Tomorrow the hunt would resume, but tonight they were together, and together perhaps they could survive. Dawn came slowly over the alien moon, painting the horizon in soft shades of gray and violet. Liam had barely slept, keeping one ear tuned to the strange sounds of the forest. Every rustle, every whisper of wind against the trees made his stomach tighten. Alira remained close, her head resting against his shoulder as she drifted in and out of a light, uneasy sleep. Her trembling had lessened, but fear still lingered in every movement. Outside, the forest was quiet, almost too quiet. Liam knew that silence could be a trap. The hunters, the collectors as Alira had called them, were methodical, experienced, and cruel. He could only hope that his makeshift defenses, combined with clever thinking, could hold them off. He rose quietly, careful not to wake her, and moved toward the small workbench in the shelter. His mind raced with possibilities. The shelter was small, but it was filled with tools and materials he could use. A generator could power an electromagnetic pulse. Panels could be rigged as barricades. Wires could trip sensors. Liam's mind worked quickly, each idea building on the last until he had a plan, not for battle but for survival. Alira stirred behind him, her eyes opening slowly.
"They coming?"
she asked, her voice soft, almost a whisper. "They will come," Liam admitted, "but we can make them regret it." She nodded, swallowing hard. "I help. I know. Paths, secrets." Liam raised an eyebrow. "You do?" She nodded again. "Home, forests, tunnels, hidden. My people, used." Her voice faltered, and Liam realized she had been speaking of her family, of her people who had been captured and sold. Her hands shook as she clutched his arm, not in fear this time, but in resolve. Together, they moved through the shelter, reinforcing doors, setting traps, and preparing a small network of sensors that could alert them to movement outside. Alira's knowledge of alien terrain proved invaluable. She guided Liam in arranging panels and wires to slow anyone approaching, using the land itself as part of their defenses. By mid-morning, the forest stirred. Shadows moved at the edge of the trees, deliberate and slow. Liam peered through a window, spotting 3 figures, tall, armored, and heavily armed. The hunters had arrived. "They're cautious," Liam whispered. "They know we're inside." Alira's eyes narrowed. "They always—" "Careful, patient, never rush. Hunt, ruin." Liam felt a chill. He understood now this was no ordinary chase. The hunters were experienced, dangerous, and precise. They were professionals who treated their prey like chess pieces, moving deliberately, waiting for mistakes. He adjusted a small control panel, activating an improvised deterrent field that hummed softly, designed to temporarily disable their sensors. The hunters paused, scanning the area, then moved again. Alira pointed to a small ridge that offered partial cover. "Go. There. Wait," she instructed. Liam followed, crouching behind the ridge with her close. From this vantage point, they could see the hunters' patterns, their cautious, almost ritualistic approach. Hours passed as Liam and Alira observed, waiting for the right moment. Finally, one of the hunters approached a side panel of the shelter, testing the door. Liam flicked a switch, triggering a small diversion, a flash of light and sound that drew the hunter's attention away from the main entrance. The hunter stumbled, surprised, giving Liam and Alira a chance to reposition. They moved swiftly, Alira guiding Liam through small crevices and hidden paths in the forest. "Here, safe." "For now," she whispered, but safe was temporary. The hunters were relentless, and Liam knew it. They needed a plan that could end the chase, not just delay it. He paused, thinking quickly. The moon was rich in minerals that could conduct electricity and create powerful charges. If he could rig the forest floor, he could create a barrier strong enough to stop the hunters, and perhaps even disable their vehicles. He set to work, gathering materials with Alira's help. They worked silently, communicating in quick gestures and broken phrases. Hours passed, and finally they were ready. Liam's makeshift barrier pulsed faintly, ready to activate at the perfect moment. The hunters approached once more, their armor glinting in the weak sunlight. Liam's heart pounded, but he steadied his hand. Alira pressed close, whispering, "Together, survive." When the hunters reached the first trap, Liam activated the barrier. Sparks flew as the electrical current surged through the ground, momentarily stunning the hunters and their equipment. Confusion erupted. Liam used the moment to move closer, manipulating additional devices he had set up along the path. Small barriers toppled, wires tripped, and sensors emitted blinding light. Alira moved with precision, guiding Liam and using her knowledge of alien systems to disable the hunters' scanners. They worked in tandem, human ingenuity and alien experience blending seamlessly. One by one, the hunters were forced to retreat, unable to advance through the maze of traps and disruptions. When the dust settled, the forest was quiet again. Liam and Alira emerged cautiously from their hiding spot. She turned to him, her violet eyes wide with awe. "You saved me," she whispered. "No," Liam said quietly. "We saved each other. I couldn't have done this without you." She nodded, her hands lingering on his arms. For the first time, her tears were not from fear, but from relief. As they made their way back to the shelter, Alira told him more of her story. Her people had once been peaceful, living in harmony with the forests of their homeworld. But greedy outsiders had captured them, selling them to the highest bidder for sport. She had escaped, running from moon to moon, always hunted, always alone. Liam listened, stunned. He could not imagine such cruelty, yet he felt a deep sense of responsibility. This was no longer just an adventure. It was a mission to save someone who had survived unimaginable horrors. Over the following days, they worked together to reinforce the shelter and prepare for any return of the hunters. Liam learned to rely on Alira's instincts and knowledge, while she trusted his engineering skills. Slowly, a bond formed between them, a combination of trust, respect, and an unspoken understanding that they were now linked by survival. One evening, as the twin moons rose in the sky, casting silver light across the landscape, Alira spoke quietly. Why, help me? Humans. Dangerous, Liam smiled faintly. Not all humans, some of us, choose to do what's right. She studied him for a long moment, then nodded. I trust you. For first time. Safe. He felt a warmth in his chest. Despite the fear and danger, despite the isolation of this alien moon, a sense of hope had begun to grow. They were not just surviving. They were standing together against impossible odds. Weeks passed. The outpost continued its routine operations, but now Liam and Elira moved as a team. They shared meals, maintained equipment, and explored the surrounding forest to ensure no hunters could approach unnoticed. Elira taught Liam to recognize signs of trackers, hidden sensors, and patrol patterns, while Liam improved the shelter and communication systems, creating a safe haven for her. Their relationship deepened, not in romance, though a quiet connection lingered, but in trust and mutual reliance. Liam had faced danger before, but nothing like this. Protecting Elira was not just about survival. It was about standing for something greater. Finally, a transmission from command arrived. Liam hesitated before opening it, knowing that reporting Elira could risk her safety, but he made a decision. He would tell the truth, not as a threat, not as an alarm, but to expose the hunting operation. He composed the message carefully, including all the evidence they had gathered, sensor logs, trap activity, and Elira's testimony. He sent it, hoping that command would understand the gravity of the situation. As they waited for a response, Elira remained close, her hand brushing his arm. You risk self. Protect me, she said softly. I don't see it as a risk, Liam replied. It's what anyone should do. The reply from command came hours later. They had received the message and promised immediate investigation. Reinforcements would arrive and the hunting operation would be exposed. Elira could finally rest, knowing that she was no longer alone in the galaxy. That night, under the glow of the twin moons, Liam and Elira stood outside the shelter. The forest was quiet, the threat of hunters diminished. She looked up at him, her eyes reflecting relief, gratitude, and something deeper, a connection forged in shared danger. Why, human? She asked softly. Others hunted me. You help, Liam shrugged, smiling faintly. Maybe I just believe that no one deserves to be alone, no matter who they are. And maybe I couldn't let you face this alone. Elira nodded, pressing her hand against his arm one final time. Thank you. Never forget. The outpost was still, the forest calm, and for the first time since she had arrived, Elira allowed herself to relax. She was safe not just because of technology or traps, but because someone had chosen to stand with her, to protect her and to believe in her worth. And Liam, standing beside her, realized that being human was not just about strength or skill. It was about courage, empathy, and the willingness to fight for what was right. Together, they watched the twin moons rise higher, their light spilling across the landscape. Tomorrow, life would continue, but the bond they had formed would remain. In a galaxy that often seemed cruel and indifferent, they had found hope in each other, a reminder that even in the darkest times, humanity could shine brightest when it chose to protect and stand for others. And so, under the quiet light of alien moons, a human and an alien stood side by side, survivors not just of danger but of a universe.